Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Hi, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, hope you had a good week.
Yeah. Today, I'm so excited about this topic today. Can I tell you?
Yeah,
Allison,
she is a
excited.
little fired up about it. Yeah, she's like happy. She can't wait to do it.
I can't wait to talk about it.
I know.
Today, we're going to talk about the kid who stays in blocks or any other area of a classroom.
Yeah.
But it's really blocks that I hear about most often. People say to me, we're always pointing out to me. If I go into an early childhood program, they're always pointing out, see that kid over there always just wants to stay in blocks. Or even now, as I work with people on Zoom and I say, what's going on? Is there anything that you need some help with? They'll say, we have one child who just won't move out of this one area in the classroom. And I'm here to tell you all, ready?
Funny that,
Ready? It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Let that go. I want to explain, though, why it's okay to leave the children where they want to be. We have this perception, like if that child stays in the blocks or in the manipulatives or doing art, that the child will lack something.
Right. Like if they stay in art, they're going to lack, I don't know, math skills because they're not, you know what I mean? Like, or reading skills because they're never in the book area or something like that's. No,
I'd like to share a truth with everybody. Here's the truth. The beauty in early childhood classrooms that are well set up of having different areas. The creative curriculum calls them interest areas, and I love that phrase. It's so much better than centers. I think I've said this before on the podcast. Everybody uses the word center differently. So I really, really appreciate the phrase interest areas, and I'm gonna take it and run with it.
If you take this term, the interest areas, it kind of makes more sense with what we're talking about, right? So like little Johnny's really interested in the block area.
Right. So
let him do it. That's what he's interested in. Yeah.
Here is the absolute beauty of interest areas and that children should be freely choosing from during free choice time. The beauty of it is that no matter what they choose to use, they are practicing skills in all of the domains of learning. The basic 3 domains of learning are the physical domain, which includes fine motor and gross motor muscles, using those muscles. The cognitive domain, which is all the thinking skills and problem solving and all of that. And the content areas like literacy and math and science. And the affective domain, which is social emotional development and moral development. So the 3 domains are those: physical, cognitive, and affective. And no matter where the children are, they are practicing all of those domains.
Yeah.
And that's the point. The point is not the task. The point is the goals and domains and the practice they get. So, okay, here's an example. The poor kids who won't leave blocks and are always being told to leave blocks because adults are trying to broaden their horizons. Free choice time is about children doing what interests them and building upon their knowledge and practicing what they know.
And you now took away their free choice.
Correct.
Okay.
It's no longer free choice time once you say you have to move.
Yeah.
But, think about that child in the blocks. Physical domain. They use their fingers to grasp it. They use their gross motor to reach, to get up, to get more. They're using their physical domain all the time, right? Yeah. Cognitive domain. They are problem solving, figuring out how to build things.
Yeah.
Problem solving.
Spatial awareness,
problem solving, spatial awareness, all that are the underpinnings of math. But We can also go over to them in the block area and count how many blocks, measure
Yep.
the height of the blocks. We can do math with them over there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Language and literacy, I can go over there and I can have meaningful conversation with them. I can even bring over paper and a pen or a
Yeah,
crayon, and we can
let's-
make signs.
Signs for your buildings. Yep.
We can
Yeah.
make signs so that we're writing things and writing letters. That can be done over there.
Yeah.
Affective domain, which again is the least familiar to people, I think. It's social, emotional, and moral development. They're not the only one in the blocks usually, and even if they are, let's say they are, I'm going to go over there and interact with them so that they are practicing social interaction. And moral development is the whole thing of, let's move over. Can you please move over and make some room for somebody? Or how can you and I work together with these blocks? They can do that with other children. They can do it with an adult.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. All three domains can be done.
Yeah. And I think that's the point. I think that's why it doesn't matter where the children go, because you as a teacher are going to go over there and interact with them so that they meet all of these domains. And if you're doing that, it doesn't matter if little Johnny goes to the blocks for 8 hours a day, every day. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. I can, as the adult, I can infuse all the learning that the child needs to know based on what the child wants to do. Let's take another interest area. One I also hear about when people say the child will only, do you know what it is, Alison? You want to take a guess?
I'm guessing dramatic play.
Yes. So the child,
Right.
excellent
other one.
educated guess. The child will only stay in dramatic play. So I'm forcing the child to go somewhere. Okay, leave the
what's
child in dramatic play.
I find that a lot of adults think that there's no value in the dramatic play area. And I think they're like, oh, it's just dress up. What are they learning in dress up?
That's very true. And perhaps
Yeah.
if we didn't do an episode about the value of dramatic or pretend play yet, did we?
I don't think we
I don't know.
did,
We
but
will.
I'm writing it down.
There you go. We will get there. It's going on the list. We will get there. Stay with the podcast.
Yep.
But let's talk about those children who stay in dramatic play. Again, it's not the task. It's the domains of learning. Physical development. Alison, what physical development are they
They're
practicing?
putting on and taking off clothing. They're doing probably some fine motor over there.
They play store. They are
play
using
store,
a
they're
cash
right-
register. They're
Yeah,
writing things.
they're writing
they're-
lists out. If it's a restaurant, you're pretending to be a waiter. Even like, I feel like when they're stirring that pot up, like there's so many motor skills going on over there.
They are covering all the different motor skills over there.
Yeah.
Okay. Cognitive domain, the thinking skills. Well, first of all, in order to pretend, you have to use process skills. You have to predict. You have to plan. You are being a storyteller. That's language and
Yeah.
literacy. You're learning narration and storytelling.
Yeah. You're putting yourself in the mind of another role, like you're in another person's shoes. And that takes a lot for them to realize, like, I'm not being me right now. I'm pretending to be a firefighter or something,
That is symbolism. And when children do that, they are setting the foundation for future reading comprehension, which we'll
Yes.
talk more deeply about in another segment of this podcast.
Yeah.
So also in the cognitive domain, they do a lot of one-to-one correspondence, which is important for math because they do, I'm going to take this plate, you take that plate in the
Mhm.
restaurant. A lot of, this is my costume, you have your costume, one-to-one correspondence that actually is math. They also do a lot of sorting and patterning if you
Yes.
watch them.
Yes.
Naturally do it and naturally emerges from them in the dramatic play area.
Yeah.
And needless to say, I hope the dramatic play area is the hub of the affective domain for sure, because they are interacting with peers and adults.
Yes.
That's social emotional.
A lot of communicating going on over there, a lot of turn taking, a lot of sharing.
Mhm.
Even just sharing the space alone in dramatic play can be a lot of effort, but they're doing it. It's
So again, leave them there
Leave them
and go
Yeah.
have meaningful conversations and add some thoughts to their play
Mm-hmm.
so that they you make sure they're hitting all the domains.
Yeah.
I feel like people are sitting here now thinking, well, what's more limiting? What do you think, Allison? What will people think is more limiting?
Is
Which
more
area?
limiting.
Yeah. Because we think of it as one particular area. I think the library area.
I was gonna say books.
Books.
I
People
think
think
it's-
that's only language and literacy.
Yeah.
It
But-
takes fine motor skills to pick up books, to turn pages,
Turn
to
pages.
pinch your fingers together to turn the pages.
Yeah. It also teaches you directionality
Yes.
a lot of times if you're reading, because you know the book goes this way, you know, and
You're sitting, you're standing, you're
you're
reaching.
reaching, you're grabbing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Let's see. The cognitive domain, of course.
Of course.
Language literacy, of course. Language, because the kids are they're narrating,
Yeah,
even if it's
also
in their heads.
What I find in the library book section is like so many kids would be like talking about the story as they're reading it to the person sitting next to them, even though they're reading a different book. You know, so like
Also,
a lot of communication and cognitive stuff going on over there.
I can just sort of meander by and go, hey, tell me about what you're reading.
Yeah.
Language,
There
right?
you go. Yeah.
Effective domain, that your library area is supposed to be set up for 2 to 3 children. That takes a lot of negotiation to share that
does.
space with anybody, adult or child.
Yeah. Or even just sharing one book. I find like a lot of times the social emotional happens a lot over there because it's like, oh, but I wanted to read that book and Johnny's got it. I'm like, well, just sit next to him and you can read it together. And they're like, oh yeah, cool. Like they never even like bat an eye at it. They're like, but I want it myself. They just, yeah, I want to see the book and I'm going to sit there, you know, like, and then you find them communicating and sharing and taking turns, turn pages. It's
Folks,
not limiting.
I could go through this. I could literally go through this for any area you're going to name.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that this is the ability for adults to ensure that no matter what a child is interested in using, they are practicing skills in all of the domains of learning. The truth is that that's why we now separate free choice time from small group time. Small groups where I am maybe at a table intentionally asking children to do what I want them to do does not take place during free choice time. It's a separate segment of your schedule.
Yeah.
Because during free choice time, I need to be available to go to the children in the interest areas and help them to think about what they're doing based on what they're interested in. Again, 2 different times of day.
Yeah.
During small group time, I can tell them that's a teacher-led time. I can tell them what I need them to do. I can rotate them among the different small groups. I can do all of that teacher-led stuff during that segment of the day called small group time. Free choice time is their time to pick what interests them, and it's my obligation to go out there to take notes about the skills that I see them practicing and to help add to their thinking as they do it. Literally every interest area has been designed, considered, recommended, is part of your curriculum, is part of your environmental rating scale, whatever it is you use as a guide to set up your classrooms. Those areas, folks, were very well thought out. Those
They
areas
wouldn't be in your classroom if they weren't found to be valuable.
and valuable in
Yeah.
more than just one area of learning. I
Yeah.
also want to propose this. Say the child is really happy over there building with Legos. And I go over and I say, you need to go do something else. This is like all you
now
ever
I'm
do.
so
I need to
happy.
go do something else. Well, they don't want to do that other thing. So you know what happens? Their brains are not as open to learning and accepting new material. It's self-defeating to move children around these areas.
It's also like, for me, like, what a great time to figure out what makes these little guys tick. You know, like if I know little Johnny loves blocks, he never wants to get out of blocks. And then then there comes a time where I need to teach him, I don't know, letter recognition, let's just say. I'm going to use blocks to get through to his brain because I know he's going to listen now. And so now I know when I'm going to teach letter recognition, all right, I got to make a little side note. I'm going to do this with Johnny because I know he's in the block area. If it's dramatic play, okay, we're going to do that through making a menu, you know, for our restaurant. Like now, but I know these kids need it here. these guys need it in the blocks. Now I know, now I can really get to what's going to make them more interested in the subject I need them to learn by doing what they like to do. I feel like it's like, why would you limit them?
Can I give an adult example of this so that we can all relate to it? I feel like sometimes as adults, we have trouble relating to the feelings of children. So I'm going to give you an adult example. I, as some of you know, am a jigsaw puzzler. I love to do jigsaw puzzles. I know that to some people it's stressful, but to me it's relaxing. I can just get into this puzzle and forget everything else. I love doing jigsaw puzzles. I go into my jigsaw puzzle table and I'm happily doing my jigsaw puzzle. And you all who are listening to this can imagine whatever thing you thoroughly enjoy doing. And some adult comes over to me and says, you've been doing that too long. You need to move on. So over there, we've set up some crossword puzzles for you to do. Now I need you to leave this jigsaw puzzle and go do the crossword puzzles. And I'm over there thinking, but I'm happy at my jigsaw puzzle and it's relaxing me and it's using my brain and I'm problem solving and I'm using my fine motor muscles and I'm doing the things that will help my brain to stay alive and active at my age. Why are you making me go do a sort of activity that I don't want to do? So if they force me away from my jigsaw puzzle and go, here's the crosswords, I'm going to be annoyed. As anybody would be.
You're not even going to try. It's like I'm a big reader, right? And I think of this all the time where like, especially with older kids where they're like forced to stay within a certain level of books or a certain topic of books. And I'm like, but I read what I want to read. And that's it. And if you take my book away that I'm really thoroughly enjoying and then plop a book in there like that I'm not interested in, do you really think I'm going to be reading it? Nope. I'm going to be daydreaming and not paying attention. Yeah.
Allison, what kind of books do you like to read the best?
I like crime thriller books. Like,
do you really?
Street? Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say you're reading your crime thriller books. My favorite type of book is biography or autobiography. Okay. So suppose I said to you, Allison, I know you're really enjoying those crime thriller books, but you're done. You have spent way too much time reading that genre of books. So here, have my biography or autobiography because that's what you have to read now.
No, just like if I gave you the crime book.
I'm so not interested in your crime book.
And here's my thing, like with kids, they do that all the time. They'll be, especially with like older grades now, like where they're at certain levels of reading, they'll be like, but you can't pick that book. That's not at your level, but he's really interested in that book. Do it.
But you know what? I know adults who read young adult books.
Yes, because there's no age limit when it comes to reading. There's no age limit when it comes to jigsaw puzzles. There is no age limit.
And
stop limiting everybody.
Everybody learns all the domains of learning everywhere. Again, it's not the task that matters. It's the meaningful interactions and the ability to build on children's interests. It's not the task that matters. It's the overall goal. And the overall goal is to practice the skills children are learning in all domains.
Yeah. I also feel like, why do you want to upset them and make their day possibly unhappy by taking them out of blocks and throwing them into dramatic play? And now you had a child who enjoyed coming to school that might not anymore because they're like, it's not what I want to do. Like, why would you do that to them?
I suspect that some of the people, not everybody, but some people do this, moving children around because we have to feel we have control over a time of day when it's in their control. There needs to be an alternating of teacher-directed and child-directed in an early childhood learner's day. And a lot of adults are uncomfortable with the child-directed times of day. So what do? They go in and direct it, but that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be going out there and interacting with children in ways that add to their learning based on their interests. And that's one of the reasons why I think in that curriculum, in the creative curriculum, they call it interest areas. This is what's interesting to children right now. Take it and run with it.
Yep.
I hope that this episode gives you all food for thought. And you know what? it takes you off the hook of having to move children around.
I
give you permission. I
Yeah.
hereby give you permission to not spend your time trying to move unhappy children around.
Right. Like I never understood that, because I'm like, why would I want to control this? What's supposed to be free choice? Like if I go to lunch and it's my free choice to eat wherever I want, well, I'm eating wherever I want. And if you suddenly say, no, sorry, you can't go there to eat, you have to eat a sandwich today. I'm like, well, then why'd you call it free choice? Why'd you give me the choice? Why?
Well,
just,
I mean,
just
if
let it be. Let it you just gotta let
I don't know, Alison, were you trying to get into the cool kids table? Because if you were trying to get into the cool kids table, I'm not sure you have that choice.
Yeah. I do feel like there is like a control thing. I feel like that.
I do. It's
I don't
a
know if we've
control
ever
thing.
done an episode on this. We'll have to look it up. But the playground rules, like all those rules that go into the playground. You can't do this. You can't do that.
We have to look. We have to look and see if we've done.
Why not just let the kids be? As long as they're being safe. My only rule last time was like, all right, just be safe. That was my only rule. It's because they have to have, and all the teachers that write down every single rule of the classroom.
We have to look back. You know what happens when you start to hit
thing.
When you start to hit like 150 episodes, Alison and I sit here going, did we ever talk about this? And we're consistently looking back.
Because we have conversations outside of this podcast about certain topics and then think that we talked about it on the podcast when we didn't, because we just had the conversation on our own.
That's so true. There are times when we really do that, folks, where we're like, no, wait, that was our conversation. That wasn't recorded.
And I'm like, we talked about it for like a good half hour. So it seemed like an episode.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that's our story. But
that's just
to sum this episode up, I give you permission to not move children around because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Let it go. I really hate when people use that song. When people say to me, just let it go. I hate that phrase, but this is a situation in which adults really need to let that go. Let it not be a part of your days. You're causing everybody stress.
Freeing. I remember the year I let go of playground rules. I remember
We'll talk about that on another episode. Don't talk about it now.
I just want to say, it's so freeing.
Okay.
It is so freeing. So like,
I free you all. I free you all. Let the children play with their play. You know what's going to happen now? We're going to get a whole bunch of email that says, well, what if somebody else wants to go to that area and they're not taking turns? That is a whole other discussion.
We'll write that one down. Taking turns in the free play.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Stick with the podcast. And while you're sticking with our episodes and sticking with this podcast, I want to ask you to send your feedback 5 for people who may not have listened to feedback 5 before. Here's what it is. At the end of some of our episodes, when we've gotten feedback from our preschool peeps, and we feel like it would be beneficial for everybody to hear it, because you all have great ideas too. We're not the keeper of all ideas.
Yeah.
Right? We're not the keeper of all knowledge. So when people share their great ideas with us and give us permission to share it with your name and where you're from, then at the end of episodes, we sometimes share feedback 5, and we call it feedback 5 because it's no more than 5 minutes. But we hope you're sticking with us at the end of episodes for the feedback 5, because there've been some great ideas shared.
Really awesome ideas.
Yeah.
Really cool. Yeah.
This episode or any other episode that you may listen to, if anything strikes you where you think, oh, I've done something like that, or here's an idea, or here's what it made me think of, or any feedback that you think you want to send to us, please go to our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, and send us the contact form, or the How Preschool Teachers Do It Facebook page.
Yep.
And send your feedback, but please make sure that you give us permission to use your name and or where you're from, whatever you'd like us to say.
And if you don't want it mentioned me, that's fine too. But
that's fine. You don't have to give us permission.
Yeah, if you give us permission, you might be on the next episode.
Yeah.
So
yeah. We sometimes get feedback that people were so excited to hear their first name, or and which is just so awesome.
It's so cool.
We're happy to do it. So please participate in the feedback 5 by sending us feedback, and also by listening to it and stay with every episode to see if we've added anything. We can't share them all, but we will share some of them.
And we love hearing from you regardless of whether you want to be shared or not.
That is correct.
Yeah. Makes us happy.
Okay, folks. So now when you go back and the kid won't leave the blocks, take a deep breath.
Let it go.
Deep breath. And it's okay. Go over there and
Okay.
have a meaningful conversation, and we'll
Yeah.
catch you next time on the podcast.
Bye, peeps.